From the creators of Off the Record, one of the most exclusive, invite-only events for revenue leaders, GetAccept is now bringing these conversations and insights on the record. This is the podcast where revenue leaders share their biggest challenges and how they overcame them. And here's your host, Morgan Ingram.
In this episode, we talk about the challenges of a marketing downturn and how it helped Alex Olley, CRO of Reachdesk, become the best sales leader possible. We're going to talk about the struggles that he went through during that time, personally, how he got over it, and then what were the learning lessons that he acquired through this turmoil during a marketing downturn, and how it turned him into the best CRO today. And he credits all the hardships to his success. So this is very in-depth. It's very personal. There's some things he shared here, if you have listened to anything about Alex and his content before, that he's not shared before here today. And that's what we do here at On The Record, is bring you challenges from sales leaders and show you exactly how to overcome them. So without any further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, Alex, we're here again, and the tables have turned, and now I'm interviewing you, and you're not interviewing me. So,
I'm not sure how much I like this.
So, first and foremost, we're going to start off with a fun question. I was looking at your background and noticed that you went to law school. So, I'm curious, how did law school help you become a great sales professional and leader, or it didn't at all?
It didn't at all. I was going to try and fabricate some story about it. Be like, I can do a red line at midnight on the last day of the quarter or something. But law school itself, nothing. Like, I think perhaps high attention to detail. That's the only thing I can give you. But other than that, it was 7 years of pain that made me realize what I don't want to do with my life, and that's being a lawyer. So it revealed a lot about what I don't want to do. And that's all it's really taught me, if I'm being brutally honest with you.
But, I mean, so when you went into sales, you went to pain to more pain.
I like pain.
Is that the moral of the story?
Probably. I've only just realized that.
So, okay, we do this pod, we do it in 3 phases. The first is most important, which is the biggest challenge. So for you, we were talking about it behind the scenes here.
Yes.
What is a significant challenge that you faced as a sales leader? And then we'll unpack it from there.
Dude, so look, I'm a CRO, right? So I have marketing, sales, everything underneath me. So anything that touches revenue sits under me. And look, I think the biggest one for me was always what happened in 2023 when really the tech market crashed, I suppose. Like this is a really tough one. Like we'd been one of those startups that had gone from nothing, we'd grown fast, and then COVID hit, went down, and then we'd grown again. And actually, I think COVID in many ways helped us. But when the kind of the tech market really had that big crash and recession in 2023, that was really hard. And it was really hard for a number of reasons. It was the biggest challenge for me because, as I said, we'd gone from this like growth at all costs to this do more with less, and everyone started talking about profitable, efficient growth, which I think I now understand. At the time, it was like totally alien to me. I was like, what does that even mean? But then, like, you've built an entire organization and an entire team to go fast and like just grow at all cost. Ultimately, my biggest challenge was, I suppose, it was undoing this whilst keeping people motivated and like believing. Right, so you're going like, oh, things aren't going as fast as they used to be, and we've got to be this new market, so we're going to have to change a lot. And now we need to get people to believe, but also we've got to get them to perform. Right, whilst we're kind of doing this entirely new motion, and then you've got all these things that you promised to we'd kind of just gone through like annual planning. So I promised this whole new motion to go after like the enterprise segment, and that was like my big focus. And so there was like this: here's what we've committed to. Here's all the initiatives. The market is changing. Got people I need to perform. And actually, the biggest challenge I suppose I'd start with is like, how do you do all that and like continue to believe in yourself? Because there's so much doubt am I the right person to do this? I had people pointing the finger at me saying, our numbers aren't where they used to be. This is kind of your fault. I'd never actually led a team through like any kind of market crash before, so I had nothing to go by. So that's the big one, I think, for me. I've been through a lot. In some ways, I'm grateful for it, but that's the hard part.
How did you feel during those moments?
So, yeah, I felt a lot of different things. It's a very good question. As I mentioned, there was a lot of self-doubt. At the time when the market was crashing, this is where it was really difficult, was I'd actually just had my second kid. And when we started Reachdesk, I remember telling my founders, I was like, hey guys, you know how we started that new company? Yeah, my wife's pregnant. They're like, does that work? Like, can you be a founder? And like, I was like, and actually, they were really supportive. They were like, I was really worried about that, by the way, but they were like, cool, great. Nothing changes. Let's keep going. But the reality was, I didn't really get a paternity leave as much because you're just in it all the time. And so you're trying to start this business whilst trying to become a father for the first time. That was hard. Anyway, going back to the real challenge, and like years later when my daughter arrived, I was on paternity leave when the market turned. I took a month off. I did. I was like, I deserve this. I took a day off for my son, which is one of my few regrets in life. I didn't take enough time there, but I took a month off. And when I came back, I was like, hey guys, I'm back. And literally in that month is where things had shifted quite seismically. It was like budgets are being cut. There's this new mantra around like do more with less. Profitable, efficient growth is becoming the norm. And the first thing someone said to me was like, this is all your fault for taking a month off. And I was just like, oh, it must be. They're right. Yeah, this is my fault. I need to do something about this. And that was awful because I didn't realize what was really going on. It was literally like, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have taken paternity leave. And this is your fault for not being there. And I had a team of 120 people. So it wasn't like I was just the only person carrying a bag.
Yeah.
That was just really hard. And so that's where the doubt and everything and starts to set in. And you start to think, am I not very good at what I do? Like, there's so many feelings, but it was hard.
What in that moment, because you mentioned also as well that you had to make the team believe and get them to perform, but at the point you didn't believe in your own self. So what were the steps that you took to get yourself to believe so that you could get the team to believe again?
Oh, yeah. So this kind of comes to the challenge, right? I tell you, if I summarize the challenge, it's like, how do you keep the ship afloat when it's not built for choppy waters and then point it in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
And the starting point, and like I speak to a lot of sales leaders, right? And we end up in this situation a lot. This isn't just about a market crash. You end up in a situation where it's like, okay, this ain't going to plan. Like, we need a new plan, right? And I think the starting point was like, I realized people just didn't believe at the beginning because they were like, this number is a bit ridiculous, right? I think the numbers that we were giving people, they were too high. They were built for a 2021 SaaS model of a Series B company that raised loads of money. They can just throw money at the problem. And now we've got to operate differently. Yeah. So I think the best way you get people to believe is give them a number they believe in, right? Now, this is a really hard conversation because particularly with like venture capitalism, and I understand how it works. And by the way, I believe in venture capital. Like, there's a lot of shit going on how like VCs are bad and all that. I don't believe in that.
It's freaking trash right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, they've made my career, so I'm very grateful. So I'm not a naysayer there, but there are conversations that need to be had. Right now, the mistake I made many years ago here at Reachdesk was I was given the number. Here's what we need you to do. Right? And this happens to, I reckon, 90% of sales leaders. Here's a number. Quotas are going up, right? Every rep needs to have $1 million quota, those kind of things, right? And at the time, what I didn't understand is, hey, how did we get to that number? So I spent a lot of time, thankfully I had mentors, spoke with different consultants. We'll talk about communities perhaps shortly, but I spent a lot of time understanding how do you get to that number, right? And so what very few sales leaders don't understand how quotas are calculated. I ask them now, I go, how like your quota for your AEs is $1 million, right? How did you get there? They go, oh, the board gave it to me. Okay, can I teach you how quotas are actually set, right? And so what you do is you take their base salary, you take their OTE, and you have a multiple, right? So if someone's getting paid 100K a year and they can double that, they're getting paid 200K a year if they hit their number, right? Now, let's look at what their quota is attached to that. So if it's $1 million, it's a 5-to-1 multiple, right? So the business is getting 5 times back for the amount they're investing in the salesperson. And most companies stop there because then they don't look at, well, okay, what's the lifetime value of the deals that those sellers are now selling, right? So let's look at LTV, right? Now let's look at the CAC and how much we're investing alongside that. Okay, from my calculations, we can afford quotas to be half of what they are, right? Let's bring them down. And so I learned how to have that conversation, how to do the analysis. There's a lot more detail to it, by the way, a load more. But I built models where I could sit down with our CEO and our board and go, here's what I think it should be. Because if people started to miss numbers in a sales team, they leave. Right? That's what happens. Yeah. So I wanted to go, let's give them a number they can hit and justify the reasoning behind it and why it's good for the business, not why it's good for me necessarily, but why it's good for the business. And the conversations were a lot easier. I could just say, here's what the number should be. Here's why. Let's go much after that. And when you say to a sales rep, hey, by the way, I just took 25% of your quota, your new number has gone down, they go, I can smash that. And then they work so hard to get behind it. And so your question about belief, like salespeople, they're not going to believe in your purpose. And you can write all your values on the wall and everything. That's all well and good. They're only going to believe in their ability to hit a number. And that's the starting point.
So if we could recap here, because I think you said something that most people, I hope that you wrote this down, is the first and foremost, the leader themselves have to believe that they can hit the number, because if they don't, then it's very hard for the rep to do that. So you took the time to be like, okay, I've been given this number. I don't even know why I got it. Let me understand the economics behind it as well. I know Sangram actually talks about this a lot, like understanding like the business of what you're in, and then getting the reps to then believe, right? Okay, I can actually hit that, right? Because if you don't think that you can do something, then you just won't do it, or you'll just go through the motions and then find somewhere else to go. And I'm assuming through that challenge, even though it was hard and you were like, I don't know what's going on, you were able to get the reps to perform, and then you saw that change, is what I'm assuming from there.
Yeah, 100%. Like as soon as we changed it, like our following quarter, we had 94% quota attainment. I hear that the average is like 40 odd.
It's like 47.
Right, it's super low, right? And it's because these conversations aren't happening. So I'm advocating this way more. Now that's all well and good. So there are like 10 different things around that. Like you've got to just put everything in place. Where are we going to put our investments? We're still going to go outbound. We're going to tweak outbound, but ultimately you have to create this plan that shows them, here's how we're going to get you to the number. I call it beating the comp plan. Right. So we go with the entire team, but also every rep. How are we going to help you beat your plan? What are the metrics? How are we going to fuel the pipeline? Blah, blah, blah. And then every week we track it meticulously. So we have this meeting every Monday called the GTM Ops meeting, where marketing is there, partnerships there, sales leadership's there, RevOps is there, and we go, here was the plan, right? We knew we needed to hit these ACVs, sales velocities, win rates. Here's where the pipeline's supposed to be coming from. Here's how pacing's supposed to work. Okay, this one's a little bit off. What can we do to invest more? Standard stuff. When I talk to other go-to-market leaders, I'm like, how do you guys track all this? And they're like, yeah, we kind of do like a QBR for like 2 days every 3 months. And by that point, it's too late. So I'm encouraging people to like look at this on a more regular basis. Like get to the number, justify why. Create a really solid plan around how you're going to get it and how you're going to beat the plan. And then every week, make sure you're looking at it and like course correcting constantly to see, hey, are we getting enough pipeline? Are we not? Okay, how are we going to get that? How are we going to dial up? Like, okay, we're BDR down, but let's repurpose that budget over here and put it into this. Maybe we do sponsor that additional event. And it has to be a minimum weekly, I believe, so that you can actually control what you're doing. If you don't do that, I think you can get derailed quite quickly.
Can you touch on how, or maybe if you led this or not, got that meeting sorted with marketing, ops, sales development that typically doesn't happen to have all those people to call and they commit to it weekly. So what was the conversation you had to bring it together? Because I'm assuming most sales leaders that are listening in, they feel like it, to your point, the challenge we talked about at the beginning, it's on themselves. So like, I just got to do it myself. I can't meet with the departments. I'm going to figure this out. Where you're like, no, like the only way this is going to work is we got to bring everyone together.
It's really simple, mate. You put an hour in the diary. You invite everyone to it, and you say you must all attend. Right? It's not hard.
I think most people don't do this though. That's the thing. Because if it was, I feel like most people do it.
Well, look, most organizations think that they have a sales problem. Most of them think they have a sales problem, or they've got like a marketing problem, or whatever. Like, and you mentioned Sangram, go-to-market partners talk about this. You have a go-to-market problem, and so one of the big things that, and I've spoken to you about this in the past, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone in my go-to-market team shares the same number. Right? Everyone shares the same number, right? Mm-hmm. If our quarterly goal is 2 million, marketing has a 2 million goal, right? Because it's no point in them hitting 150% of their number if sales are only hitting half of theirs, right? So you have to get everyone surrounded around the common goal, which is revenue, right? So it's this team sport working towards revenue is a constant game of course correction. You don't just go, we're going to invest this, and this, and hey presto, it all falls into place and we'll hit our numbers. It's like, okay, that one's smashing it, so let's double down there. This one's not doing well. Like, I've never been in a situation where it's all like all green lights, all happy days. It's a constant game, and you have to collaborate on it. Like, you can't just be like, if marketing go and do this, and they go and put more into like PPC, that's going to solve the problem. Like, sales needs to know what's going to happen there. Like, and we just talk about this all the time. And so the way you solve this is, one, you get everyone surrounded on that common goal of revenue, right? And you work backwards into that. How are you going to generate the pipeline, and what are the metrics that are going to support it? And then what are the leading indicators that show you're getting there or not? And when you see something is off track, you can double click on it. And between BDR, sales, marketing, the three of them can put their heads together and go, here's how we're going to solve this together. And that's how you solve things. Without it, you're just working in silos. And it blows my mind that companies still think that works just by doing it in your individual team.
I think a lot of people think they have to play the hero because, like you said earlier, if you think it's on you, you will take it on you to figure it out.
But it doesn't need to be that way.
It doesn't need to be that way. I don't think it's right. But I think that's how most people react, though.
But again, so I firmly believe that, I operate in the world of SaaS, right? I believe SaaS companies are starting to discover there's a new playbook and like how unit economics work and how the machine is built. And it's built in a very different way for how the technology was built, right? And if we keep talking about MQLs all day long and hope that that's going to change the game. I was on this roundtable last week with 12 marketers, and they were all like, we tried focusing on revenue, but then about a month in, we just abandoned ship, and now we just talk about marketing qualified leads all the time. And it hasn't influenced our revenue number at all. I think at the board level, at the investor level, things are starting to change. I can see there's more communication around this, but the way the model is built is changing. All right, and sooner that can be adopted, this concept of go-to-market is recognized as a team sport where everyone is working towards that common goal, is the fastest way to change it.
I want to double click on, a lot of things you mentioned before. You were saying, hey, you've done analysis, you have models, you have ways that you've broken this down in terms of revenue. It seems like based on this challenge that you had in 2023 and really accelerate this is like really understanding the business and how everything works together versus just a metric like, oh, we just need SQLs, MQLs, SQO, like every acronym under the C we can name, but you've done the work to understand these different things. So before you kind of move into like how this has impacted your career and we go into the next phase of the conversation, I'd like to get an understanding of what models would you give suggestions to people on to make them more confident in their role, to make them more confident to speak to other people in department. You don't have to go over all of them, but a couple just so people can be like, okay, I can just start somewhere.
What is in like what are the models I'm constantly looking at?
Yeah, the models you're looking at, yeah.
Dude, I've got so many.
That's why I know you have a lot. It's just two for people.
Look, the basic one for like revenue leaders is that standard waterfall. right? How much new, like, so let's say you're a business that operates on a quarterly basis. What was my starting pipeline, right? Okay, how much new pipeline have I created? How much have I lost? How much have I closed? What's been pushed into next quarter? What's been pulled in? All right, and is there a slight variance on average deal size based on the pipeline qualified? And what I mean by that is typically if we qualify an opportunity, it's like, let's say it's 50K. Actually, this one was a bit bigger, so it's 60K. So you have this waterfall model, right, which shows you the kind of the rolling state of the go-to-market team. Does that make sense? And so that has to be looked at frequently. Like, is pipeline going up? Is it coming down? Pipeline is the source of all success at the end of the day, right? A good pipeline. I look at sales velocity all the time. Right? Sales velocity seems to be this thing that people don't look at much. Right? And so it's so simple. It's number of opportunities, right? Times by your ACV, times by your win rate. Right? So it's basically like ops plus ACV, which is your pipeline, times by your win rate, and then divided by sales cycle length. All right, and that is the gold standard of the health of how you're operating as a sales team, because it basically tells you how much revenue am I bringing in every day. All right, and so what we look at is we can look at things like, oh, our win rate improved by 10%. Great, we're doing really, really well. Hang on, our sales cycle increased by 30%. So our sales velocity, we're actually selling less on a daily basis. So this is a problem. And so I always encourage people to look at that in isolation and then collectively. How many opportunities are we generating and from what sources? All right. What's the average deal size on each of those? What's the win rate? And then what's the sales cycle length? And then you combine all those in that calculation. And on a monthly basis, you can see the trend. If our sales velocity is getting better, we're selling more revenue on a daily basis compared to where we were before. And you can literally plan around that entire thing. You can literally be like, okay, so our sales velocity is getting worse. So sales cycle length is flat. ACV is flat, our win rates come down, so our velocities come down. Right, let's start to talk about the initiatives we can do to improve win rate specifically, and then let's track that sales velocity and see if that's changing like week over week. When I've taught people that, they're literally like, they message me, they go, sales velocity is getting better. I was like, which one did you change? And we're like, it's really nerdy, it's so nerdy. But like, those are the things that I've learned that honestly, when you inspect them regularly, you can start to change what you do about it.
No, I love that. And I think that's a great takeaway for people. If we look at it, what can you do to change yourself so you can believe in yourself, so your team believes and they can perform. And those are some great models that people can execute. And it kind of leads into, like, you mentioned the challenge at the beginning for 2023, everything that happened when you had your second kid. Like, what have you learned from that experience, and how has it impacted your career moving forward?
2023 was the best year of my career as a sales leader. It was the hardest, man. Genuinely the hardest. But I think it was Winston Churchill said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." It taught me so much. I think I'd neglected a lot of these things, like understanding unit economics, and to your point about like, how does the business work? How does that really work? I hadn't really studied it. I hadn't really been taught it. I got really good at that very quickly. It taught me how to actually operate and execute. I think a lot of companies between so 2017 and like 2021 just got lazy. It was easy. Apart from that sort of month or two when lockdown happened, it was easy. We could just get away with it. Like, a lot of stuff could be papered over the cracks. We had a lot of money to spend. We could just throw money at the problem. And actually, it helped me learn how to execute like way, way better. It forced me to like collaborate with other teams way better. I think for a while I was kind of a bit in my lane, a bit too much. Like, this is a sort of a sales and marketing thing. And I was like, okay, product, we need to talk way more, man, because I'm looking at my close loss reasons and we're losing to our competitors because of these things. So that bit on the product roadmap, we need to bring it forward. Otherwise that ain't going to change. And so I'd started just putting a lot more collaboration in the wider teams, customer success. Like, it was we operate way better now than we did before, and that finally it taught me about the importance of network and community. Network and community. So it kind of sounds dramatic, but in many ways was the thing that sort of saved me, but also gave me the kick up the arse, because when all those doubts were in my mind that it's my fault, and this isn't happening to anyone else, and this literally is your fault. It's kind of crushing.
Yeah.
But then when I started, I actually think, honestly, I haven't told anyone this, by the way. I think I was networking because I thought I needed to look for a job. I was like,
Yeah,
I should probably get myself out there a bit more because I think I'm about to get canned.
Yeah.
But then when I started sitting down with more revenue leaders, they're like, dude, this is happening everywhere. This ain't your fault. And I don't think the people telling you that realize that either. So I kind of forgave them quite quickly. And I was like, look, whatever, here's what I'm hearing, guys. But Pavilion was a big one for me. I have no attachment to Pavilion other than I'm a member. But that was a big one for me because I got really good mentors from there. Yeah. I had people on speed dial. I could Slack and be like, hey, can we work through this problem together, or can I get some support here? And they were the ones that actually helped me. I did CRO school, which really helped me in many ways too. There was a lot that the communities and my network gave me the support to kind of go, yeah, actually, you are pretty good at what you do. Let's work on this together. If you need my help, it's there. And that kind of support line was huge. And so I advocate that for any leader in whatever position you're in. Surround yourself by the people that have either been there before or going through it at the time. Do it together. Never do things on your own. And that double down on that. Use those times to learn and get better. And I think the big lesson, this will kind of sound cheesy in many ways, but I learned that learning happens in the struggle. Mm-hmm. And that was, in many ways, kind of what I needed. But I don't think I would have survived very long had I not had those people around me.
You know, my dad, full of wisdom, he said, I was complaining about something. I don't know, it was a problem that I had or something like that. And he was like, Morgan, your problem isn't that unique because someone's probably already gone through it and figured it out. And I was like, but it's like, he's right. Like most of our problems or the situation that we're in, where you were at, it's like, oh, this is only uniquely to me. But then you go talk to other people and it's like, yeah, we're going through the same thing. And you're like, it's a relief. And then it's like, okay, well, now I have other people that are going through this thing and now we can solve it together, whatever that may be. And I do agree with you. I even think about in the 2023 is when I first started my business. And I've said this on a pod before, but I don't talk about it often. I lost like 400,000 in pipeline at the beginning of my business. And I was like, yo, we're about to kill it. And then it's like, just everything in 1 week just went away. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Like, is this why no one goes off on their own? And so, yeah, I had to think everything. And, you know, now we're in a good spot, but that was very difficult. But I learned a lot in that because it made me double down on how serious like business is, and I had to learn like, okay, how am I approaching this? Like, how am I positioning this? What am I saying? Like, why do people even make these decisions? I think if you're able to push through those hard times, you learn so much, like you said.
100%, man. So as I said, 2023 was one of the best years of my career. It was hard, it was crushing, but I'm genuinely very grateful for it. I think I needed it.
Do you feel, and maybe reflected this already, because you mentioned that it wasn't the same models as 2021 or, you know, even like 2019, 2018, you know, when it was, let's say, relatively easier. Do you feel like because you had that year last year where it was more difficult, it woke you up to be like, wait, these are things that I now learned last year that if I did not learn them, you would not be as successful as if you were today?
It certainly gets. I'm not sure about today as such, but
yeah,
going forwards, 100%, man, 100%. Like, I've spoken to a lot of people about this. That CROs of like 200 million ARR businesses, and they've said the same. They're like, this is kind of what we needed. This will actually probably make me more successful in this reality, right? And I think the people that didn't learn and that just went, I'm out, I'm just out. And I was one of them. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm just out. This isn't like, I want the good times back. Can I have the good times back, please? Yeah. But I think a lot of people had to make a choice. And I think they had to go, yeah, I'm gonna weather this. And whatever happens, moving forwards, like these are very good lessons to learn. And so I think it will perhaps lead to more success in the future. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But some unbelievable lessons.
That's awesome. And thanks for sharing those lessons with us so people can learn and now start executing and put their business and revenue teams in the right spot. As we wrap up here, Alex, are there any shout outs or mentions that you want to give to anyone before we leave?
Oh, mate, look, I've spoken about me, right? I've spoken about me. I think I just want to shout out to all the amazing Reachdeskers, right? Who have particularly the ones that have stood beside me for so long. Like I've always said, you're only as good as your worst team player. And when you're surrounded by A players, you're always going to win. So whilst I've talked about me and my learning, my struggle, you don't get through the hard stuff without people like that around you. So shout out to all of them, really. I think my reflection is make sure you're not the B player. Make sure you're not the B player. Those guys I will always shout out to, right? We always say we bleed purple, but I'm very grateful for the people I work with. When I walk into the office, I go, this is really why I do this, because I get to hang out with these guys.
Awesome. Well, Alex, thanks so much for taking the time, sharing your insights with everybody here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you on the next time. Thanks for joining us on the On the Record podcast. And as I told you all, this Alex Olley episode was going to be fantastic. I hope it got you all to consider a couple things to do differently and moving forward. So in my notes, I have 3 things that you should have taken away from this conversation. Number 1 is understanding the economics of the business and understanding how it works. 2 is understand how to foster cross-departmental relationships. And then number 3 is how to empower and lead your team during tough times, whether it's an economic downturn or just emotionally they just need to get that spirit going. You now can provide that advice to them. So again, hopefully you all enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe for the next one that we have coming out. And again, hopefully you all enjoyed the episode.